All right, are we ready? Out of courtesy to our speaker. What? Brief announcement? Yep.
Gary, don't give him yet. Well, he's going to have to open it up too. So it's not a surprise bomb or anything like that. Something that you can open up safely. But anyhow, on behalf of all of us at the Lunch Bunch, we just want to express our appreciation for the 10 years of your leadership. I know Steve and his wife will be in good hands to use your guidance and carry this great group together in the future. But again, thank you for all that you've done, and I really appreciate it. Look forward to many more successful years for Lunch Bunch. But before, open that up and say, okay?
There's about 6 of us that commute from the East Bay to come over with Gary as a driver. No one of his responsibilities is to make sure we get here on time. For the past 10 years, it's been kind of fun to hear about the transition of Lunch Bunch from the pre-COVID period. When we first started to come in this room, we were in the small room to the left as you come in for a long time. And whenever you have 40 people or more, we could come into this room. So obviously, after COVID, there were a lot of wives that were happy to see their husbands get back to lunch. So we had quite a surge right after COVID. I think close to 50 that came that first visit. So that almost doubled our regular attendance. And ever since then, it's just been a nice, steady climb. This is certainly one of the biggest crowds, but in our commute, we get to hear about all the issues that Gary's had to take care of. And it's just been an amazing period that we've been able to continue to grow, not out of a long-range plan, but just because the word has gotten around. We've had good speakers like we're going to have today, and he's just really taken all of that on his shoulders and done a fantastic job. So congratulations.
We were lucky enough from Richard Valenti to get your Ferrari 550 Maranello on that, and so it's
That's only because he wants it.
There you go. That figures. I knew there was an ulterior motive to that. But anyhow, it's just a recognition of Gary for his 10 years of wonderful leadership of the Lunch Bunch. So thank you again.
I know we all have these problems, but let's stand up and give him a...
Much appreciated. It's been, if not for all of you here, it wouldn't happen. Although sometimes you give me palpitations of the heart at this last minute stuff all the time. I'm going to continue on taking these reservations, but we may just decide that on the Saturday before that's going to be the end of it. And so, just start getting your reservations in. It's been better. But we have a certain motley crew of people that love to wait till the last minute. Anyhow, I don't want to belabor all this. Any other announcements? As usual, it's kind of quiet in here. I thought you guys were car guys that had things going on in your life. What is this? You just come here and sit and eat and then go home and take a nap, or what? Okay. Anyways. Our speaker today is Ed Holloway. Ed's lifelong fascination with automobiles began in a bustling household of 6 sons, where classic Fords like the Model T, Model A, and even a 1934 Woody famously featured in Disney's 1965 film "that darn cat," were a constant presence. His early passion led him to become a dedicated docent at the Black Hawk Museum in Danville since its opening in 1988, a role he continues to embrace today. Beyond his commitment to the museum, Ed has also served as the director of the Northern California region of the Classic Car Club of America, and as the editor of their quarterly publication, The Classic Overview. On a more personal note, Ed's enthusiasm for cars hasn't deterred his wife, Sue Yin, whom he reconnected with and married 15 years ago after their 45th high school reunion. That may have been 46 now, I'm not sure. In any case, it seems her understanding of his hobby addiction is truly remarkable, and she continues to put up with him. It's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm welcome to Ed Holloway.
First thing I'd like to do is to thank you for coming to support my talk. What? Sorry, I don't mean to ignore you guys. Actually, I do want to ignore you guys. Before I get started, 3 months ago or so, I gave a talk in George Hotel in his Duesenberg. I met a very nice fellow, a retired attorney who was involved in settling the hotel estate. I'm wondering if he might be here today. Darn. Okay. I wasn't wise enough to get his name and phone number. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce my lovely wife, Sue Yin Ju. Now that I'm embarrassed her. We've known each other since junior high and met at our 45th reunion. And before I start, I'd like to mention to you folks, if you would like, the notes that I have today is from a report. It's like a 175-page report on Leno's collection. I went to his collection 12 years ago. So whatever I say today reflects on those days and those cars, although he's enhanced his collection nicely since then. So it's kind of passé, but I've structured the talk so that it's like Jay is giving us the tour, not me. Jay is showing us his cars. And so, just to get started, I wanted to just give a little bit of a story that came from his autobiography, Leading with My Chin. All the stories I'm saying in this is from his autobiography, his own words. He's a teenager and he's working at a car dealership and he has a handful of hubcaps. And he's turning this corner and here comes the sales manager, boom, hubcaps drop. The sales manager fires him on the spot. Poor Jay went home totally devastated. Then he thought, you know what? And he decides to write a personal letter to Henry Ford II and also to the board of directors. Pretty much like most of us would do, right? And obviously he not only got his job back, but the sales manager made sure to stay clear of him. Let's see. I guess I have a clicker right here. Okay, let's see what's up here. I like to keep it light. Who doesn't mind a little Lauren Hart in our life? It is no laughing matter. Jay is a great comedian, but he's very serious about cars, but not just cars. Here he is. Hi, Jay. His collection is very close along border of the Burbank Airport north side. He has a facility of 100,000 square feet and always growing. Whenever it's in an industrial park, you'd never know it was there. And he always conveniently has an empty police car parked in front to discourage people. It's an idea of what his car collection looks like, at least at a quick view. He has a machine shop that they can build a car from the wheels up. He can do anything. And then there's a gourmet kitchen. When I was there, it was pizza. This is his work crew. You might recognize the second guy from the right, Bernard Hughley. He used to have a Jaguar repair place on the peninsula. I don't know if you know him of that. My dear friend Bob Sales, to his left is, to his right, our left is no longer with us. I happened to be there when this Fiat came in with problems, and they all got together and tried to solve it. It's a great group of people. I mean, just really very nice, down-to-earth people that like to solve problems. Now, it's just not cars, and it's not just bicycles. He has wonderful poster art all over the walls that was duplicated advertising. Started with steam. James Watt's involvement with steam helped propel the Industrial Revolution. But the reason I have this is that he actually, and we're talking about the 1700s, he actually invented the concept of a steam automobile. That's the good news. The bad news is he didn't do anything with it. So one might say he was the first to envision that concept. Jay has a real passion for steam, like this 1870 Wright steam engine. This 1832 is his oldest. He also has a steam engine that came from Teddy Roosevelt's Sycamore Hills Summer Estate in New York. It's called an Harrison pump, and steam was the big thing. You know, you had cars, and you had trains, and you had ships. Thousands. He sold thousands of his Ericsson pump. The reason I mention that is John Ericsson later went on to design the Monitor, the famous Monitor Merrimack 5 in Virginia. Okay, we'll start with electric. This time in 1909, if you can believe this, 38% of the car registrations in the country were electric. In New York City, 58% were electric. So the electric cars were the big thing. And this big electric was his wife's favorite. Now for the ladies here, you can imagine how convenient it is. You don't have to, you come in with your lady friends, you don't have to worry about anything but just drive. Steering by tiller, there's nothing to crank on. I mean, there's no gears to go through. And look how nice that interior is. In fact, the market was geared for the ladies. Henry Ford's wife, Clara, actually even owned a baker. One of the first purchases of baker was Thomas Edison. In fact, the Edison nickel, were you waving at me?
Is it okay to ask a question?
What?
Is it okay to ask a question about that?
I like to hold questions to the end, if you don't mind. Anyways, he has in his baker, the 1909 baker, has an original Edison battery, which is like pretty impressive. Jay said it's driving a Baker Electric is like driving around in a phone booth. One of the early Stanleys, one of the early singers was the Stanleys. The thing with Stanley steamers, it took up to 20 minutes to boil enough to get going. We had this wonderful rocket, Stanley rocket, if you can believe, setting a speed limit of 137 back in 1906. I mean, that was like that was a rocket ship. Pretty impressive. That was at Ormond Beach, Florida, which is now Daytona Beach. This is a race car, obviously been at the Vanderbilt Raceway, but they were so fast that the police and fire departments used Stanleys. This was the car that Jay was under when he had that accident that did some injury to him. But he said the driving the Stanley, the brakes were so bad that he had he had to put it in reverse to slow it up. I don't know how you do that. The White was another electric car that was very important in its day. A little bit higher quality than a Stanley. Teddy Roosevelt rode in a White in his 1904 inaugural race. And President Taft had it a regular White House cars. Here's a picture of Roosevelt in the back seat before they go down the parade route. But nothing beat a double steamer. Those were built right here in Emeryville. They were at the very end, in the early 20s, they were very end of the steamer era. They could beat anything, because at the very end, the gas cars were starting to develop. There were very few, 16 were built, all but 15 were custom designed at the Walter Murphy Company in Pasadena. Now if you can see, when you're paying $5,000 or $6,000 just for the chassis, and then they would ship them down to LA by train, and then a representative from Doble would show up at the train station, put a box or something down, and then drive this chassis to Pasadena, where the Murphy Company is. Can you imagine that? Wonderful picture that would be. Let's see. Howard Hughes loved Dobles. He had two of them. The Doble on the left was a personal car for Abner Doble. And the one on the right was a Doble that was purchased in San Francisco by this fellow named Green, who owned the Green Eye Hospital. And he paid some big bucks for it. It was found years later at a junkyard in Chicago. And the guy paid 2 pistols and a box of bullets for the car. Who got the better deal? The Dobles were absolutely wonderful. The late Stan Lucas worked for a fellow that was manager of Doble. Doble is like, I'm talking within a minute, you're ready to go. That's how great they were. All custom bodied. The Owens Magnetic could be considered the first hybrid, and going back to 1913. Very expensive to maintain. Enrico the great Caruso and Chicago newsman John McCormick had magnetic. You had an engine providing power to the generator, which provides power to the magnet that keeps it going, that gets it going. One of my favorite, actually this is my favorite poster, advertising the premier car. You can look by just, you can tell by just looking at the poster that the car was meant to be the upper middle class, people of wealth, not necessarily wealthy, but of means. And here we are, a Premier. It was a 1914 Indianapolis race car, pace car, very light, aluminum bodied, and a very wonderful car. It was meant to be competing with Rolls-Royce and some of the better automobiles. There aren't too many. I think there were. I think there's 4 left today. This is a Franklin. Franklins were air-cooled engines, and this particular car was very light. Again, aluminum body. And in 1904, Franklin set an American record from going coast to coast in only 33 days. 1904. This is a Crane Simplex, one of America's really outstanding cars, always custom bodied, just outstanding craftsmanship all the way through, and of course very expensive. 1911 was the inaugural year of the Indianapolis 500. There was a fellow by the name of Harry Stutz. He was working for the Marion Automobile Company. He decides to do his own thing. In 5 weeks, he puts together this car, enters it into the Indy 500, and finishes a respectful 11th place. Thus, he says, the car that made good in a day. That was what he used for his advertising all the way through. Stutz were really pretty cool cars. You think of the early days of the raccoon coats and the college kids saying 23 skidoo and all that stuff. this was a cool car for the jet set. Here's a Revere named after Paul Revere, touring. Most Reveres built before 1925 were custom built. Well, guess what? They only lasted a year later. There were about 117 built, 7 are in existence, and their claim to fame was King Alfonso of Spain bought one. So that meant that they put it in their advertisement everywhere. King didn't say the company, but it made them feel good. The Cunningham was a really excellent car. We have one in the museum sedan. The Cunningham people were very really hooked on doing the best performance of craftsmanship. Their chassis and the bodies were like wonderful. They would not compromise on quality, which unfortunately led to their demise because they priced themselves out of the market. Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and Harold Lloyd all had Cunninghams. Not a bad group, huh? Packard Twin 6 was a big thing. Packard Twin 6s came out in 1913. This was the only year where they gave it the name Twin 6. This was Jay's first collective car, and he purchased it from Phil Hill. And actually, the Twin 6 encouraged Enzo Ferrari, to get into doing Twin 6s and actually 12s. Okay, a couple great guys. Cord. Everett Cord, typical story. His father passed on. He had to quit school to go to work to support the family. He became a two-fisted businessman, very dynamic, a little bit short in stature, but he could sell anything. And Auburn was going out of business, and they hired Cord to try to save them. And he said, "I'll tell you what, don't pay me a salary, pay me in stock." So with aggressive advertising and some great colors, he made Auburn a success. Made him a millionaire because he said, "Just give me stock." His great designer was Gordon Buick, who designed the car we're going to be seeing soon, the 810 Cord. There it is. 810 Cord came out in 1936, and 1937 was the supercharged. This is a 37 supercharged Winchester. Design of, now folks, this was an absolute smash at the New York Salon. Smash success. You had to get a hit. Why? What's different about this car? What hit you real right away? Tell me. Speak up. No headlights. Covered headlights. The first car to have covered. You get the car. The first car to have. To have headlights. Covered anything else.
Front-wheel drive.
Say that again.
Front-wheel drive.
Front-wheel drive. The 1929 Cord was the first American car to have front-wheel drive, as did this. This had a V8 engine. But where's the radiator? That was another thing. It hid the radiator, and that hood was called a coffin nose for obvious reasons. Dynamite car. Now, if Paul and Connie Borg Paul just brought this car home. They're going out for a drive at night. And, how do you open those headlight covers? So Paul's in his side of the car, and he's hand cranking this little crank. It is slowly opening up. Then he turns to Connie and says, "You do your side." It's just charming, the way in a great car like this, how you did that. This gives you an idea of whatever other things that Gordon Buick was an absolute wonderful genius. He designed the 3536 Auburn Boattail Speedster. He was head of design at Cord at the age of 21. Duesenberg. Fred and Fred was the brains. He's a self-taught engineer, so many of these early guys were. There were kids when they moved to the United States and lived in Iowa, growing up in Iowa, got involved in the bicycle craze, who didn't, and then became self-taught automotive engineers. They were, their engine, their straight eight Lyconian engine was powerful, double overhead cam. It won races. It won the 1924, 25, and 27 Indy 500 wins. But guess what? On the left, going through the 20s, the years they didn't win, racers powered by their engines placed second or third for those remaining 7 years. Not too shabby. By the way, this fellow, Jimmy Murphy, who won the French Grand Prix, has anyone here grown up south of Market Street by any chance? Okay. He grew up in Minna Streets, south of Market in San Francisco. The A was the first car that the Cords came out with. It became the pace car for the 23 Indy 500. This is Tom Mix, the famous actor and one of the first big stars in our country. But the A's, they sold 650, but the styling was kind of stodgy. And they didn't sell that many. Plus the fact that the Duesenberg, as great as they were at engineering, automobiles were not very good business people. An example of that is Fred Duesenberg invented hydraulic brakes. That's the good news. The bad news is that he didn't patent it. He could have been a multimillionaire had he done that. Okay, so Jay, the policeman came by his shop and said, there's some old car in some garage down there. And he went down and asked to see it. And the guy said, no, maybe another time. He went back 20 years. The guy finally let him in, and it was this car. It was an X. He had the 650 A's, and then the next line of cars for Duesenberg was the X. So there were only 8 of them. 13 were made. There's 4 in existence today. This is one of the 4. So what he did was, what this guy did, if you can believe this, he went to Chicago, bought the car, had it trained here, down here, and drove it very little, put it in his garage and forgot about it. It had like 7,000 miles on the odometer. Randy Ema, the automotive historian, said it was more like 100,000 still. This is what it looks like today. Jay kept this original, placing it in the preservation class. So he kept it as original as he could. Now, a lot of people don't realize or may not know that you have the Duesenberg A, and then you have the X, and then there's a Y that came before the J. And this is the one car that was it was built by Fred, but when Jay bought them out, they were in chapter 11 when they were going out of business. Jay bought them out and said, get rid of that car. I'm going to give you a mission to make a very special car. So there's only one Y, and it's at the Auburn Corder Duesenberg Museum in Auburn, Indiana. Okay. Just very quickly, the owner of the previous owner of the Black Hawk Museum is Ken Behring, passed on. And Ken Behring went to the Tonight Show. Johnny Carson couldn't make it, so Jay Leno was sitting in. So here's a commercial, and Jay and Ken start talking cars. And Ken was telling Jay about his Duesenbergs. And Jay's thinking to himself, boy, today I can even afford one. This is his Duesenberg collection. The 6 J's, and then the chassis, and then he has that A that we just saw. An absolute fortune. The highly anticipated Duesenberg J, highly advertised, highly anticipated. Supposedly Wall Street closed down for a minute for this announcement in New York. It's flooded with people. He took best smash hit at the New York City auto show. This isn't the one that made the smash hit, but it is a 28. It opened in 28, end of 28. It was a big hit. When you bought Duesenbergs, you bought, first you started with a chassis. The chassis was run from $6,500 to $7,500 for the chassis. Of course, you had to have a body. The body were all classic design, custom-made bodies for about as much. The average price of a Duesenberg was $16,000 in 1935. Today, that'd be over $300,000. This is a Lycoming supercharged engine, and the pipes on the side indicates that. It had two engines. The basic Lycoming engine on the left has horsepower 265. You put a supercharger on that baby and takes it to 320. The 265 horsepower will get you up to 95. The supercharger in 92 in second gear with a gear to go, that's going to push you to pretty much close to 120. That's what they advertise. Just amazing, amazing. The big P, the three Ps, Packard, Pierce, Arrow, and Peerless, they can only brag about 120, maybe 140 miles an hour. Look at this, 265 to 350. This was like, what? This was a spaceship. Okay, so Ed, you are buying Sherry a car, a Duesenberg. She is ecstatic. And she says, well, I like that mascot. Why don't? And they said, okay, Mr. Gilbertson, that mascot is another $25. You spend $16,000 on a car. You want the mascot, another $25, which is around $600 today. I thought that was kind of like, what's up with that? See, this is a 31 Duesenberg town car, J415. Duesenberg J's are kind of thought of as by their J number. The J number is the bell housing number on each Duesenberg, has a different bell housing, and that's kind of the identification that they use. Jay heard about a car that was in some garage in New York, so he went garage hunting. And he finally found this car, and it belonged to the Strauss family. Of course, he obtained it. The old man and old lady, Isidore and Ida Strauss, went down with the Titanic, so this would be the next generation. President Hoover went with them in this car in the day. So anyways, he discovered the car 50 years later. This is a very unique car. This is a Walker coupe maybe. Very, very different, as you can see. It has a rounded rear of the car. You have the headlights incorporated into the fenders, pretty unique. And it was Joshua Eli Pharmaceutical bought it. It was designed by a fellow by the name of Herb Newport. And it costed $25,000. You've heard of the 20 grand down in the Nethercutt collection? $25,000 for this car. So he was delivered to him, and he thought, got a little bored. He ends up trading it in for a $5,000 deposit credit towards a Cadillac. Go figure. Jay's favorite car is this. Most of the Duesenberg, about 481 made, more or less. More than half were designed at the Walter Murphy Company in Pasadena, as is this. Simple lines. Duesenberg invented the disappearing top, which made this a big seller, and Jay Leno's favorite Duesenberg. Okay, Bentley, 8-liter Bentleys. It's not too many people beat the 8-liter Bentleys. They were a jet. They went. And the irony is that W.O. Bentley didn't believe in supercharging his cars. So these cars went all out without a supercharger. When he sold his business, they put superchargers on his chargers on his cars. But there was one race he still beat them, kind of made him happy. Okay, Jean and Ettore Bugatti. Ettore's the old man, Jean is the son. Exceptional people. They came out with the Dynamite Type 35 Bugatti that won thousands and thousands of races. They average 14 wins a week. They're that very strong motor, very light body, very easy to maneuver. They had all the records until Ferrari came along. The collection, the car, Jay's collection is this Type 37 Racer. Basically, it's the same basic carriage as the Type 35, but it was half the size, a lot lighter. You can still go up to 120 miles an hour, which isn't too shabby. This is my favorite Bugatti that Jay has in his collection. This is the only American designed and bodied Bugatti in the world. It's the Bugatti that was created and never left California. The body was custom designed at where else? Walter and Murphy Company. It was purchased by Charles Howard, who was owner of the racehorse Seabiscuit. Just really a wonderful, wonderful car. This is a very unique Bugatti. There were 3 made, only 3 exist. It's a Bugatti Type 37 ST Atlantic. The one on the top is owned by Ralph Lauren, and the one on the bottom is owned by Mullen of the Mullen collection. And Mullen and his investor got the investors together, and I think he paid $30 million for his car. But wait, Jay has one. Same chassis and all of that stuff. He had the body duplicated, so it's like it is as close as one could get. And by the way, the rivets on the back, there was the metal something in the metals you couldn't weld it or it would burst into flames, and that's why they welded the back of this car, which kind of gives it a little personality. Tops out at 125, not too shabby. Designed by John Bugatti, who unfortunately died before he should have, at a young age. Okay, there are some of those of you guys might like this car. I like the car, but a lot of people didn't. This was displayed at the 1934 Chicago World's Fair. I like this car. I've always liked this car. It had that very aerodynamically designed, the radiator that comes down into the bottom of the car. It was the first American car with safety glass. It had a lot of nice features. About 11,300 were made, and but it was just a little too advanced for the general public. Mercer, got to love a Mercer. Cannot love a Mercer. In the early days of the Indy 500, it was the Mercer and the Stutz that were the big competitors. And Mercer's were it was owned by the Roebling family. The Roebling family developed the suspension process. They built the Brooklyn Bridge. The old man Roebling went down to Titanic, and the cars were built in Trenton, New Jersey. Trenton, New Jersey's in Mercer County, thus the name. I love the Mercer. People would buy this car, drive it to work during the week, and then take the fenders off and race it on weekends. A lot of people did that, as well as the Stutz. They did that with the Stutz too. So you had a dual purpose of this car. I love the Mercer. The McLaren F1 one of Jay's favorite cars, a Dynamite car. That's his car. The 3 people could sit in the front. The driver actually sat in the very middle of the 3 seats. So it had perfect balance when driving along. It was basically a race car made available to the public. Okay, after World War I, there was an aero engine explosion of ideas. Their airplane engines were made available. You know, they were all over, the loose parts and all that, were made available to people to put into cars. Small Suisse, the French car. It had a strong V8 engine. It was highly, when Mark Birkin, who owned the company, approached the Allies during the war and said, I think I have a good engine for you to put in your planes. They tested it for 50 straight hours, the highest degree of tension on that car. It became so successful in the test that the majority of the World War I flying craft for Allied planes, regardless of whose name was on the fuselage, were Hissels. So after the war, they converted it to cars. Why not? The other car company that did this was the Fiat, Botafogo. The Fiat, this Fiat was actually made in Argentina, but with that aircraft engine, it could go 145 miles on 2-wheel brakes and not particularly smooth roads, and that was a quote from Jay. All the quotes I've given you for Jay was from his book, Leaning with My Chin. The Patton tank car. Gee, I wonder if it's a one-off. These guys came by with this, and they put it together as a show car. It has a helicopter motor in it. Jay made some improvements on it. It can go 100, I think it's 145 miles an hour. And Jay's comment was, gee, 145 miles an hour at $6 at 6 miles per gallon, if that. 300 SL, great car, one of the best designed cars I think ever made. After the war, 1954, Le Mans, the 300 SL Mercedes took first place. And so they decided, let's do something to this car, and they made it into what's called a goal, that's a seagull, a design. Max Hoffman, the American importer of cars, said to Mercedes, they made, the first year they made 1,400. It was the first, maybe the only, car, German car, to be introduced to the world in America. Not in Germany, but in America. You know why? Because the Americans had the money. Hoffman told Mercedes, of the 1,400, send 1,100 to us because the Americans have the money. We're not building up cities. We're not short of manpower, and that's what they did. It had a tubular structure underneath the steel. Very dynamically, a fast car, aerodynamically designed. The doors are curved, so you didn't have a way to put windows in other than pop-up windows. You had a window in or out. You didn't have a straight way to put it down. Custom luggage came with it. Clark Gable had one of these. If you have a sense of claustrophobia, this is not the car for you, because you feel real cramped. Remember these? Has anyone ever seen one of these, the turbine cars? You have? Jay Leno went with his family to the 1964 World's Fair. And he was really excited. He knew about it, read about it, but it was a big line, and his father said, forget it. And they were driving, and he was like, that's probably why he bought one. 55 were made, 50 were sent to 204 families to check it out. It's a turbine car, one spark plug, but kind of fun. I don't know how many in existence today. There couldn't be very many. Okay, so you have Ford Mustang GT 350 and then the Shelby 350. You know where that term came from? Tell me.
350 steps.
350 steps from Shelby's office to the one next door. Pretty dramatic. I've always loved the Mustang. Lee Iacocca made two mistakes. Number one, he didn't make enough of them, and number two, he didn't give enough credit to the boss, Henry Ford II, who gave him the boot. But the right price, I'm a post-war population baby. It was about the right time when I was ready to buy a car. Oh, by this time I was getting drafted. Just a nice, clean look. It just had everything that you wanted. 289 engine. And then, the 66 Cobra came out. Let's see. Shelby came out with this dynamite car, Cobra, 3 carburetors, 427 cubic inch. Nothing beat a Cobra. It was just one. This is one. Jay's Cobra, the 427, is one of 11. But when you see a Cobra, have any of you probably from last month's program, you know about the Cobra experience in Martinez, right? And if you've never been there, it's really worthwhile. So Jay's kind of hanging around with his group, and they thought, Jay said, why don't we make a car? What? Well, let's put together a car and just make it. And so they decided to make the EcoJet. The body was designed, it was a helicopter motor. The body was designed by GM. And look at the back of this. It's a totally awesome car. And it's a one-off, obviously. It's in his collection. The Rocket, 92 Rocket is it's the first car that had a motorcycle engine. It's a Yamaha 1000cc. It was the fastest car, if you can believe this, the fastest car of that time at 160 miles an hour. Can you imagine driving 160 miles an hour in that? I think I'd go through all my Hail Marys. Speaking of motorcycles, Jay Leno has a great motorcycle collection. The slides I've shown you, I had to cut down dramatically what I originally put together because I don't want to lose any friendship with Gary Cruz, because he says, keep it limited. The Bro was a very wonderful hand-built motorcycle, expensive. It's called the Rolls Royce of motorcycles. And the chap on the right is T.E. Lawrence, as in Lawrence of Arabia. He loved Bros. He had 7 of them. This is Mr. Bro with Lawrence. Mr. Bro gave Lawrence one of his motorcycles. I don't know if it was that one, but there was certainly a good friendship there. Vincent Shadow, Black Shadow. Rolly Free was a racing competitor, did pretty well, won a number of races. And he decided to do something original. He went to the Bonneville Salt Flats with a Vincent Black Shadow 48. He strips down to his bathing suit, puts a shower cap on, and borrows a pair of sneakers, and he's off and running. On the mile run, he made it up to 150 miles an hour, 150.2. Amazing, amazing feat. Little goofy guy. I mean, he had his moments, but totally amazing. Chialoma put together a 2000 turbine superbike. Now the engine was a Bell Jet Ranger helicopter Rolls-Royce Ellison turbo engine. So what does he put that into a motorcycle? What does that mean? Like, get out of my way. And tops at 230. The thing is, the exhaust temperature in the car was 1,200 degrees. There was a time Jay was at a signal, and he noticed the car next to him was edging up a little more, and it got to the point where Jay couldn't go any further. And then the car, he looked over, and the heat of the exhaust was melting the bumper to this car. So you better believe when that signal turned green, he was out. Okay, there were 3 special cars. We're going to get in a little personal experiences of Jay. The 54 Jaguar XK 120. The rumor was it's called the 120 because that was the maximum speed. This car can go 140. This was the fastest production car of its day. An absolute smash at the London Auto Show. And look at the design. I mean, it's incredible. So Jay's a little kid. He's walking his bike up this hill. He looks over and he sees this guy polishing his XK 120. Wow! And he was like, and he knew the car because he's always read car magazines. And the kid the owner looks over to him and says, "Hey kid, you want to sit in my car?" Now, understanding you could probably get arrested for saying that today. But Jay was Zoom. It was one of the cars that really cemented his deeper interest in automobiles. Not a bad choice. So years later, he was going to a class reunion talking to a buddy about that experience, and his buddy said, "Well, let's see if it's still there." It was still there. Just looks a little bit different. He says in the East, people don't throw things away. Houses dating back to the War of 1812, you still have the same furniture and everything else. Okay, 1966 Ford Galaxy brings a story back to him, and the story was his father had a Fairlane, his mother had a Falcon, and his father wanted something bigger, so they went to this Wilmington Ford, and his father comes in and says, "I want a big Ford." And Jay says, let me pick out the engine, let me pick out the engine. And the mother said, "I'll let the kid pick out the engine." And he goes for it's called the police pursuit vehicle. The only year they made it. I'm talking about a 7-liter, 458 horsepower, bucket seats, all kinds of things. And then the car arrived, and they go to pick it up, and his father said, "What's that?" And, "Well, sir, you ordered this." So he steps on it, and he can hardly keep it down. And his father, who was in the insurance business, took it, my guess, took it to his office, and all these younger guys are saying, "Gee, you're really cool, you have this cool car." And Jay was later looking at his father's chest drawers for something and found a ticket for going 110 in it. So I think his father might have enjoyed it. This is the most emotional vehicle that Jay Leno has. In 1955 Buick Roadmaster. He bought it in 1975 out of the Penny Saver for $350. This was the car that he's going from gig to gig when he had nothing but jokes. The car that he slept in. And it was the car that he dated Mavis in. Then he took it over to her family. It was just sitting outside, just being wasted away. And he thought, I'm doing all this stuff in my office, in my store, my garage. I should just restore this, which he did. This was a very emotional car for him. It said a lot about his life. So, I hope you enjoyed. He's saying, "I hope you enjoyed my collection." He said it's available to you if you would like to donate towards a nonprofit. You can. Whoever was that got this at an auction for more than a few bucks, but he does allow people to come by, and he could very well be there to show you the cars. It's a wonderful experience to go through his collection. I caught this with him leaving work, when he was at the Tonight Show, every day, different car to go home, to go to work. So he was driving this Fiat. On the way to work, another day, another car. I think that's it. That is it. Thank you. Questions? Who had the question? Yes. Yes. How do they keep them charged? The question was, there were so many electric cars, 1900, how do they keep them charged? They had charging stations all over. There were like 300 or 400 in New York alone. I mean, they were everywhere, and they were about this high. But the charging stations were buku, because that's all they knew, at that time. Then the steamers came. But that's a good question. They had to be prepared for that. Yeah.
You showed a picture of the keyboard.
The engine on the Cunningham, you must know. Let's just answer that with affirmative. Anything I did. Put it down. Sorry, I don't know. The question was the size of the engine on the Cunningham, and the other question was, how'd you have so many charging stations when so many cars were electric across the country? They had them across the country, which we can anticipate happening now. But it was a strong motor. It was probably an 8-cylinder motor, I would imagine. And it was built to be rugged, and with comfort, and to challenge Mercedes, Rolls-Royce on that level. And people with money, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and Harold Lloyd, were the group that bought it. What a great, yes.
How do we get an invite to the Jay Leno's garage?
Well, you need to, let me just tell you quickly. Jay Leno was very open about his collection. He had car clubs coming by, and one time he had a car club coming by, and people were sitting on his running boards, sitting in the car. Another time a club came by, and the next day, all of his cars were pictured on the internet. And he calls the guy and he said, what's up with that? And Jay says, and the guy says, why, I thought you'd appreciate me just sharing what you have there. No! Close it down, only for nonprofit activities. You go to a nonprofit that has an auction, then you auction for that right. Now there was a gentleman here do you want to talk about it at all?
Well, I'm not sure if my experience is unique or if it happens every single time at the end of Pebble, but Jay is often a host, and he rallies the troops before the awards are given out, and he offers to have the Big Dog Garage visit pass available.
Now I'll stop screaming. Anyway, he held an auction, and he said, I want to let everybody know this is an auction to raise funds for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Monterey County, and I'd like to start the bidding off for a visit to my garage at $500. And like a hurricane wind went past, so many hands went up. He said, no, I can't accommodate all of you, so I'm going to take it up to 1,000. Soon it was at 3,000, and the hands were still going up like crazy. And I stopped bidding at $3,750. I think he took 80 people's $3,750 to go in. And that was in my case, it was 4 people to visit. don't know what they do today or what happens next time. Well, worth it. There were 2 pages of rules of do not do the following, including all the things Ed just mentioned. The number 1 thing was, if you see Jay Leno, you'll be lucky. Please don't approach him or bother him or ask for pictures. Also, don't take a single picture in the garage. Well, he showed up about 10 minutes after my buddies and I got there, and he spent 4.5 hours with us, of which over an hour of it was with the Bruff motorcycle collection, which he was just gushing over. And it was one of the best automotive experiences I simply ever had. Highly recommended.
Thank you.
I was lucky enough to get there once, and one auction I dropped out at $20,000 for 4 people. And I said I just don't want to spend any more than that for for probably a 4-hour tour. And my daughter lives in New York, and she went to an auction there, and she called my wife and said, you know, should I bid on this? And so I got it for $4,000, which is very, very reasonable for 4 people. And I took a friend and 2 nephews, and we had a spectacular time. Jay was not there that day, but anyway, the guy who led us around was one of his mechanics, had done it many times, and basically knew everything that was going on, plus probably some stuff that Jay did not know. So anyway, I recommend it.
Because all you have to really do is go online and see what his cars, and he goes in such great detail with so many of them, including driving them around. So I was very fortunate before all of that came down, and Jay was very nice and considerate to allow me to come in. And I called his secretary, and she said, I told her what I wanted to do, and she said, would he have to look at the cars? Yeah. And by the way, I did a report that was 175 pages. It's on this where we did our name tags. It's over there on the table, and it's yours if you want to make a contribution to the in Kansas. What's the name of that design school? McPherson. To make it a donation of any amount to McPherson, I'll give you a copy of and it has all of what I said and much more, a lot of details, various cars, a lot of quotes from different publications. And if you look at it if you like, and if you're interested in a copy, just put your name and phone number down. Any other questions at all? Okay, you guys have been great, really great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I hope you all come in next year.